we are once again the end of another month. That means our stats for May 2026 are available. So it's market update time. Let's get into the numbers. This is for Polk County, Florida. Stats through May 2026. This is your June market report. So Polk County saw 1,222 closed sales in May of 2026. That's compared to 1,378 a year ago. That's a decrease of 11.3%. Cash sales as a percentage of closed sales, 21.9% of all sales were cash sales, compared to 19% a year ago. That's an increase of 15.3%. Median sales price, $309,000. That's compared to $312,900 a year ago. That's a decrease of 1.2%. The average sales price in Polk County, $320,496. That's compared to $327,482 a year ago, a decrease of 2.1%. Median percent of original list price, sellers received 96.1% of original list price. That's compared to 95.7% a year ago, an increase of 0.4%. The median time to contract, 49 days, compared to 48 days a year ago, an increase of 2.1%. So really, though, no change in how long it's taking to go from listing to contract. And then it takes 91 days to go to sold, compared to 88 days a year ago, an increase of 3.4%. Again, not really much difference. New pending sales, 1,355 compared to 1,455 a year ago. That's a decrease of 6.9%. New listings, 1,645 compared to 1,855 a year ago. That's a decrease of 11.3%. Pending inventory, 1,826 compared to 1,901 a year ago. That's a decrease of 3.9%. Active inventory, 5,708 compared to 6,537 a year ago, a decrease of 12.7%. And finally, month supply of inventory, we have 5 months supply of inventory compared to 5.4 months supply of inventory a year ago, a decrease of 7.4%. Tune in and we'll talk a little bit more about what this all means for you as a buyer or seller in Polk County. So, numbers suggest a slower market overall compared to last year, which is unfortunate because last year was a very slow market. One of the real estate experts, coaches that I follow is Jared James, and he's talked about the fact that last year and this year we saw nationally around 4 million sales. That is the equivalent of what we saw 50 years ago in terms of millions of sales, but our population back then was much, much, much smaller. And so the reality is that this market is a very slow market. May is sort of the turning point for Florida come into summer home buying and selling season. This is when a lot of families start looking because their ideal is to get into a home and situated in their new schools before the school year starts. And so I'm hopeful that things will start to pick up. There was supposed to be a treaty that went into effect with the war in Iran on Friday, but then hostilities happened again this weekend, so who knows what's really going on with that. I do think that is still driving a lot of what's happening with the market. The Federal Reserve did not lower rates, so interest rates are still up over 6.5%. I think that's keeping a lot of buyers on the sidelines. Plus, again, as I've talked about in many, many videos, the uncertainty of the economy. Inflation keeps going up. Home prices are coming down a little bit, but food prices and gas prices are through the roof, and the reality is people's wages, their income is not keeping up with inflation. And so people are trying to find ways to stretch their money further, and it's getting harder and harder to do so. And in an economy that seems a little unstable, people are going to hold on to their money. They're not going to make big investments. They're going to hold on to that car a year longer. They're going to stay where they are in terms of housing longer until things start to settle out. And so that's the market we're in. It is a slow market. I am noticing that less sellers are putting their homes on the market because I think sellers have started to realize it's a slow market. But the reality is that sometimes you still have to buy or sell in this market. And so what's the smartest way to do that? For me, if you're a seller, make sure your home is move-in ready. Make sure you price it aggressively. There's a range of what a home's value is based on recent solds in the neighborhood. Unless you can very specifically articulate why your home should be among the highest priced in your neighborhood, you are much, much, much better off being among the lower priced homes in the neighborhood, because that's how you're going to get your home to move in this market. Buyers are very price conscious, and so they're going to look at, if they're looking at several homes in a neighborhood and one's $475,000 and another one's $500,000, unless that $500,000 home is much, much, much nicer than the $475,000 home, they're going to go for the $475,000. Same thing at a $300,000 price point. You have got to be able to articulate very, very clearly why your home should be worth more, why a buyer essentially should pay more to live in your home in a neighborhood compared to another home in the neighborhood. And if you cannot do that very specifically, then you are much better off being lower priced. If you need to sell somewhat quickly or really want to sell. If you don't need to sell, you can wait as long as you want. You are not going to get frustrated if the home doesn't sell. Then you can price it higher, but you need to be prepared that that home is not going to sell very quickly. It's going to take some time. I have a couple that I've been working with for almost a year now. They bought in a new home community, and they bought a nice home. They did some nice updating. They haven't done a lot to it. The home was brand new, so they didn't need to do a lot. They fenced in the yard. They put in some nice flooring in the downstairs, better than builder grade. And they realize now that they want to be much closer to family in Orlando. And the drive from Winter Haven to Orlando can be frustrating at times. And so they have decided that they would really like to get closer to Orlando. Here's the problem. They only bought a little over a year ago. Well, now it's 2 years, I guess. And the builder is still building in that community. And so not only do they need to articulate that their home, how their home is nicer than anything else in their community, they have to offset the fact that the builder is paying all the closing costs for a buyer. The builder has reduced their prices, and the builder is buying the interest rate down. And so how is a seller of a resale home going to compete with that? They can't pay all the buyer's closing costs. They don't have enough room from where they bought to what the home's current value is to be able to do that. Unless they take a big loss, and most people can't afford to take a big loss in this economy. And so, you know, we've talked and they really, really, really want to move, but the numbers just don't work for them right now. So, you know, my advice to them is they need to wait either until the builder's done, or prices start to improve. Now, they're building a Target not far from their house. That may help increase property values. So maybe they won't have to wait as long as I think, but I think they're probably talking about a couple years, not just another year. Maybe it'll change. Maybe the economy will change. Maybe gas prices will go down. Maybe inflation will go down. Maybe people's wages will pick up. Any number of things could happen to change the dynamic right now. But in their situation, it just doesn't make a lot of sense to sell because the market numbers just don't make sense. Now, If you're looking to buy, the bargains are with the builders because they can offer all your closing costs. They're reducing the price of the home. They're buying your interest rate down to 4, 5, sometimes 3.99% at no cost to you, although it's built into their charges. But the reality is, at the end of the day, you're going to see that lower payment. And so that's where the bargains are. It's not necessarily in a resale. Now, resales, if you can find an older home that's been updated, that's probably the gem. Because, for example, I put a home on the market a week ago Saturday in Lakeland. It's a custom built home, built in '93. Very, very nice, sought after community. Homes don't come available very often. That home went on the market, and 5 minutes later I had a showing request, and those people put in an offer. Took us about a week to negotiate, but ultimately that home went on the market and basically went under contract within 5 minutes. But that was a unique home and a unique find. And so if you're a seller and you have one of those, you might be able to get a top dollar and sell quickly. But if you're in a newer home community and you just bought a few years ago, you are competing with the builder, and that's going to be a challenge. That's just the reality. Doesn't mean you can't sell. It just means you might need to be prepared to a break even. Hopefully not a short sale. Hopefully you can break even, pay off your mortgage, and move where you want to. It's just like starting over. When you buy your new home, you don't have the down payment basically paid for by the equity you earned in your home sale. So that's kind of what's going on right now. I think there are some things going on that could hopefully help improve things. The reality is homes are still being bought. Homes are still being sold. You can buy or sell a home in any market. You just have to have a realtor that knows how to navigate the market to make it work for you. I believe I'm that agent, so I'd love the opportunity to talk with you or your family or friends, see if I can help you. As always, remember, you can't miss with Chris. Have a great day, everybody.